Hey everyone, and welcome back to another industry report. So, do you want your passion to be exploited? Do you want to be underpaid while living in one of the most expensive, regions in general? If so, then Blizzard Entertainment is the place that you want to work at. And as for the rest of us, you probably don't want to work there. Now, trust me, this is an interesting story in general. It's also interesting from my perspective because, if you're not aware, we also do one of the largest World of Warcraft YouTube channels that's there on YouTube. And through that, suffice to say, there's a decent amount of texture that can be added to a story like this, especially when, I've worked with people at Blizz, and when I take my experiences there and I smash it into this most recent expose from Jason Schreier in this massive spreadsheet of Blizzard's serial underpaying, then it's actually something where there's a lot to get into. And also, you should know, people have been talking about this for a long time. Not just since J. Allen Brack was the president of Blizzard Entertainment. This does go back into the Morhaime era, and as much of many of us, of course, do like Mike Morhaime, we think he's a pretty cool guy. He's pretty decent. A lot of the serial underpaying was something that went on at the company during his tenure as its lead. So overall, this is quite the situation. First up, though, the thing that we are driving is those subscribers. Most of the people who watch this channel are not subscribed to this channel, so let's try to nudge that number up to 250k. Over 1,500 of you joined within the last few days of us mentioning it, so thank you for that. And of course, your likes, your watch time, and all those things help the algorithm a lot. So cheers, and with that said, let's get into the video. So, alright, of course, Jason Schreier's involved here, yes. Jason is the ever-listening ear of the industry, and he once again has used his Blizzard sources to great effect. So Jason has received an anonymous spreadsheet comparing salaries across departments at Blizz. Now, this comparison spreadsheet started after Blizzard started to implement the results of a study to ensure fair pay in the company. Now, this was prompted by an internal survey that revealed that more than half of Blizzard employees were unhappy with their wages. Apparently, though, these results weren't agreeable, and it led to an outcry on their internal Slack about low and unfair pay. And in response to this internal situation from Blizz trying to take care of it themselves, in response to that, one employee created this spreadsheet that we now all have and encouraged others to share their information. And it supposedly contains dozens of self-reported salaries and recent pay bumps, most under what people expected after Blizzard's study. Now, we don't know an awful lot more than that, but needless to say, it showed some pretty darn significant discrepancies. Apparently, one employee also added Bobby Kotick's $30 million compensation. That's a 1.7 million salary, 2.4 cash bonus, and 26 million in stock options. Now, given that that is tied to the company's performance, suffice to say his stocks will be worth a hell of a lot more. Now, a spokesman for Activision Blizzard did give a canned response about, fair and competitive compensation with an eye to recognize talent for their best performers. And apparently top performers did get a 20% higher pay rise than in prior years with more promotions. But that's not really the issue here. So in internal messages that Bloomberg saw, Blizzard employees spoke about how they basically are in a situation where they're struggling to make ends meet. We've got staff who are going as far as skipping meals, not being able to afford meals in the company cafeteria. One saying they've stopped talking about having kids because they know they can't afford having kids, and this is all while the higher level producers and engineers are earning in excess of 100k. But even that is something that we need to put into context with the cost of living in the region. So you've got a situation there where if you're earning between, I think, 40 and 84k, you've got the 22% federal income tax, then you've got the 12.5% California, state tax. Then, of course, you're going to be dealing with a whole bunch of other things, right? Like there's a 7.5% sales tax in California, which I believe is one of the highest in the United States. And also, just in general, existing in America is pretty darn expensive, as, say, compared to here. And if you're maybe a contractor for Blizzard, then yes, you're going to have to, of course, foot the bill for your own healthcare as well, which is something that will be super expensive. So overall, you're in a situation where there's people who are earning 60k a year. Now, $60,000, if you were to, say, live in Belfast, Northern Ireland, where we are, you would be minted. But in Irvine, California, significantly less so. And we'll get onto a few more of the reasons for that in a little bit. Now, obviously, right, wage discrepancy. that's tied to value, and that's appropriate in loads of places, right? Yeah, people should be paid based on their productivity. A good senior engineer is going to be providing value in that six-figure range, and they absolutely should be paid the value they're providing to the company. But we have a situation here where employees are struggling to pay rent, they're struggling to eat, and you've got a business owner that's getting record profits, record all of that, so maybe they should have reevaluate their pay strategy. Now, they got rid of 800 employees to cut costs while hitting record revenues, and we're in a situation where, yeah, some people are resorting to second jobs. I mean, I've been to the Blizzard campus, and those reports of there being Uber signs in the staff car park, those are not a lie. Right? Now, that's really the gist of the Bloomberg article, but as with all industry stories, of course, it's really where it hits Twitter and staff like X staff start talking about things. That's where it gets a bit deeper. So, this article was headlined, Blizzard workers share salaries in revolt over wage discrepancies. And Jason's tweet sharing this is saying it was done as part of an open revolt. Now, while Jason's not necessarily wrong for many people, a principal engineer at Blizzard rebuked that, saying that he put his information there because he believes in transparency, not as a part of a revolt. Now, this sparked a lot of debate and a lot of anger over a spicy headline turning readers off. I would certainly say for a lot of the staff involved here, they're probably in a situation where they're thinking, well, I am part of one of the most profitable machines in gaming, and why am I being underpaid as compared to what other companies would compensate my role even in the same area? And we'll get onto that with a comparison with Riot Games and how much they pay. Now, either way here, transparency is likely to kick off, more dissatisfaction in the underpaid part of the employee base, and I think that's actually why the culture of not talking about pay is something that's sort of the way that it is. People don't know what they're worth, and that's useful for employers, because if somebody doesn't know what they're worth, they're going to be happy with what you give them. Now, it's illegal to stop employees from talking about their pay, though, so it's good that this is happening, especially in Blizz, which is a company that, as compared to the rest of AAA game development, is not really paying people what they should be paying people. Now, there is a negative side here. People can also feel unfairly paid whenever they maybe have an ego problem, maybe they inflate their own value, or maybe they don't recognize somebody else's value. And that can lead to distrust and discontent, so there are things like that. At the end of the day, yes, somebody could genuinely be providing $18 worth of value in a situation where a senior software engineer is legitimately going to be providing hundreds of thousands of dollars of value. Hell, a lot of those senior software engineers in Blizzard could probably get triple or more the salary, in like the 300, 400K, if they, found a startup or some big tech company in a similar area of California. And a lot of that also does bring up the fact that, yeah, your headquarters is in Irvine, California. That's where a lot of your staff end up being. Now, that is a problem. Because if somebody at their current skill set is only able to provide $15 an hour worth of productivity, well, that could be okay if they were, say, headquartered in a part of the country where that would be okay, and they could get by a little bit more, maybe $20 an hour. I don't know the specifics of things. I, of course, live somewhere where we have GBP as our currency, pounds, not dollars, but you get my point. If you are, say, if you're in London, right? If you're in London in the UK, which is somewhere that also has got a pretty inflated cost of living because, of course, it is the big smoke. Well, yeah, if you've got a minimum wage job there, it's going to be a bit more tricky than if you've got a minimum wage job in another part of the country. And that's a bit of an issue with Blizzard. You do have to wonder, should they think about, moving their campus, or for maybe situations like a QA department, have that be located somewhere where the people who are going to be on those QA wages will be able to have a better quality of life. Maybe there are some proactive things there where Blizzard could actually structure their company better so they could be providing, if they only have so much payroll to go out, they could be providing, a better situation for the people on that payroll. But that said, given the record profits, the record, not even record revenues, record profits, and the insane compensation of people at the top, it very much does seem like they could just pay all of these people more. And here's a big problem too. By serially underpaying these people, what's going to happen? Well, you see, the thing is, businesses are in competition with each other over workers. Now, if those workers just wander off to another industry or another games company, Blizzard is going to lose out in the long run. So it could be that all of this acty-driven, cut your 800 jobs and then penny pinch as much as you can, it could actually be the situation that short-term, cuts down their costs, drives up their, their sort of earnings per share or profit per share, you could maybe say something like that, which is really good for them in the short term. But in the long term, it actually degrades the institutional health of Activision Blizzard. And to be honest with you, I would not be surprised, because certainly a lot of Blizzard CMs have just wandered off to other companies. A fair few big Blizzard developers have just wandered off to other companies. I am pretty sure that Ghostcrawler is making more money at Riot than he did at Blizzard. Is that a good thing for the state of World of Warcraft? Who the hell knows? It's just the sort of thing, though, where a lot of those staff do seem to wander off, and I do have to wonder if that's going to bite Blizzard in the arse as time goes on. Going back to what some ex-employees have been saying, though, there's one person, Hex, who shared their opinion on part of why employees continue to put up with and to side with Blizzard. And basically, they spoke at length about how it's the Blizzard family effect. And look, just about everybody knows it's a bit of a cult there, right? Everyone knows this. Tribalism takes root, and, well, when there's an article like this that's seen as an attack against Blizzard, the tribe, it is seen like an attack against the family. They say that the upfront nature of calling Blizzard out drives some employees further into the nest. The employees that are unwilling to confront Blizzard, where they belong, are just kind of like problems. And this is something that's honestly a bit crazy, and you do hear rumors of it. The alumni also went into how leaders would reply to concerns of, say, money with, "Get roommates. It's an honor to work here," and downplay people's issues. And, I can confirm, there are people at Blizzard who have got to... you think when you're in your 30s, it's not the time that you're crashing with your roommates like you did in uni. Is that what's going on at Blizzard sometimes? Yeah, it kind of is. And sometimes this even reportedly included insinuating financial irresponsibility as being part of the issue. But that said, it's bloody California. Now, the minimum wage in California is $13 an hour, and average rent in Anaheim is apparently just under $1,900. I saw something that, your average apartment is like $2,400 in the Irvine area. So you're in the situation where if you want to be near the Blizzard campus, you got to pay a lot of money. And trust me, from being there, honestly, I think that LA is an anti-human place that needs to just be, you know what, if you could just, like in Age of Empires 2, click in LA, then hit the delete button, wow, I think it would be better for humanity. But that whole area, seriously, I have never been to more of a just anti-how humans are supposed to exist place than the time that I was at the Blizzard campus and I was going around Irvine. It was such a horrible city. It was like totally culturally devoid, and basically it seemed like what adults would do to actually go and relax was going to these like weird malls that all just seemed like they were copy and pasted like it was SimCity. And like it's almost a sort of nighttime crash for adults. Man, it is a rough place to exist. And, even on the plane over there, I heard a bunch of LA people talking about how it was the worst place in the world. They hated being there and they loved traveling for work because it just meant they could be away from LA and away from that part of the world. And then, they pay these insane rents to be there. And it's that sort of thing where... a minimum wage is just a completely useless tool, because no matter what, you just are going to have these jobs that are not worth the amount of money you would have to give somebody for them to have a decent quality of life in an area that reportedly has got a housing crisis, so rent is super expensive, and also is just hyperinflated because all these big expensive tech companies have moved in. And yes, now everything is priced as if a senior or maybe mid-level software engineer at a big company can afford it, which of course is... not going to be something that's going to make sense for, say, somebody who is just starting off in the industry, is maybe a junior QA person. That's just a big issue here. So really, it's the sort of thing where, to be honest with you, I don't think minimum wage is ever something that's going to be able to deal with an issue like those sort of massively inflated bubbles that you're dealing with in a place like Irvine. And there's also just a situation, $13 in California, I imagine that's pretty different to $13 in Iowa or Ohio or something. Now, there's a big economic discussion to have there. That's probably something for another day. But your TLDR here is, Irvine seems like an honestly terrible place to actually be running your business. And certainly, we look at companies like Visceral. EA shut down Visceral. One of the reasons why is you could move them all up to Vancouver, up into, Canada, where you're going to have a lower cost of living. You're going to have more government incentives incentives and things like that actually make it more affordable. We've seen Austin, Texas. I don't know how expensive it is, but we've seen, Blizzard do have a base there as well, but we've seen other companies set up there. And then you look at games like Cyberpunk 2077, like Witcher 3, Wild Hunt. How much would that cost to develop if it was being made in, Irvine, California, and not in Poland? So it's wild. Going back to what Hex said on Twitter, basically they started to feel heartbroken at new passionate employees whenever they were joining up, because they were knowing just how much these people were sacrificing to be at Blizzard. They just, they wanted to be in that Blizzard family, they just could barely afford it. And this is the nefarious part. This probably goes up the chain with people believing, what they say. And like Hex says, villains often don't know they're villains. It's likely this situation where many of those at Blizzard are just enforcing the status quo. Now, this stuff is textbook passion exploitation, one of the worst cases in the industry probably, and it's something we've known about. If you've been anywhere near Blizzard, you've known about this for ages. Come on. After the 800 people, were given the boot, this whole discussion came up. And when that came up, people referenced previous discussions of it. I think it's now just that every time this crops up, it just gets larger and larger in magnitude. But it is this abusive, predatory behavior by a company that, totally does want to just exploit young, passionate people into getting a pretty good deal. I think anybody who's worked closely enough with Blizz stuff knows that, there's just some rough people who get protected in there, and I think that's what happens when, and it's stuff that's, I think, not my story to tell, but you do have bad things happen when you basically have this sort of employee cult that forms in the upper echelons, the old boys club. Suffice to say, a lot of house cleaning, I think, is needed there, and a lot of changes are needed. And ultimately, as much as there was this situation, and this is my personal opinion, where a lot of staff felt like Mike Morheim was a real man of the people, he wanted to take care of everybody, ultimately, a lot of this stuff was going on when he was leading as well. And I've got to imagine if maybe the staff who are saying that, some of them are reminiscing for the good old days, maybe Mike was actually just a genuinely super decent guy. I get that impression from him, but whatever, it seems like those, the passion pay is something that was been going on at Blizzard for quite a long time. But it's the sort of thing that I think is incredibly short-sighted. As I said, this is going to lead to brain drain, both from Blizzard and to other industries. We're going to lose a lot of juniors, right? Juniors who are going to be paid better starting off in other industries. And, passion work, that's something we're all far more aware of now. Artists talking about being paid with exposure. Maybe they would do that 15 years ago, 10 years ago. But now, no way. People want to be paid what they're worth. And I think we're just in this situation where you could end up getting into some big tech company or some startup or whatever, and you could get a hell of a lot more money. And that means that those juniors who are going to be the future industry leaders for us, they're going to go to other industries or to other companies. Even the likes of EA and Riot Games are in a similar enough location, and they pay significantly more than Blizzard, according to numerous employee reports on Twitter. One of them is a Riot product manager, ex-Blizz, who shared their salary. They earned $16.75 initially at Blizz, then $59K as an associate project manager, and then $74K as a full product manager. Now, you've got to remember, $74K, I live in Belfast, Northern Ireland. To me, that's a massive amount of money. But then you got to remember, your federal income tax, your state income tax, then mixed in with your 7.5% sales tax, then mixed in with just, it's really, really, really expensive to just be in America and be in that part of America specifically where you've got these hyperinflated rents. And I'm sure you're probably grand at 74K, but I imagine it is nowhere near as comfortable as 74K would get you in, anywhere else pretty much. Now, Riot, this same person, they paid her $134K as a PM, and that later went up to $163K. Now, here's the thing. Riot are probably paying her that because that's what they assumed or, found her market value to be, right? The actual, sort of productivity that she was providing to the company. So that Riot were almost instantly giving her $134K, where Blizzard was giving significantly less than that. It does make you think, has that person's actual productivity and value massively changed between those two jobs? Probably not much. It's probably a situation of a practice and a culture of underpaying at Blizz. Now, one thing that I do know there, and this is something that staff talked about after the 800 people left, got the boot, and that actually was that Blizzard would basically have decent benefits, would really, really underpay in cash, but then would try to like trump up their benefits and actually sort of include those in like a total compensation, which of course is something that's not particularly useful because, a lot of those benefits, they're not things that landlords are going to accept for rent, are they? Now, she's not the only person speaking up. There is a game dev paid me on Twitter. There are examples of Blizzard QA employees claiming they had 5 people in a 2-bed apartment just so they could afford to live. There's a recent tweet from Jason that kind of points out the damage this can do. He says that one of the saddest things he hears on an almost weekly basis is people leaving the industry for a better paying, more stable job, and that they're then much happier. And I know a few people who have done this sort of thing. It's totally a thing. Again, it's industry brain drain, and it's going to be bad for gaming overall. Now, obviously, we kind of all knew that this stuff was the case, but what matters about this story is the employees actually getting together and talking about it. That's a big step forward. The more employees that actually step up and stand up for themselves internally, the more likely we're going to see genuine change. And if Blizzard doesn't actually move here, do you know what should happen? Those employees should then go to other companies. And here's the thing. If you've got a bunch of disgruntled employees, here's what's going to happen. There's going to be more people flooding that labor market, and this is a labor market where it's people with a pretty specific set of skills in a specific industry. So that probably is going to mean that Riot and Co can be like, sort of lowball a little bit, but that these staff leaving Blizzard will still get a really good comparative situation when they move over to those other companies. And that's not going to be good for Blizzard. So I guess given how much fundamental change we're being promised across the industry and social issues, perhaps now would be a better time or a good time to actually start pushing for working conditions and things like that as a part of that broader thing of people just trying to get a better deal in gaming. We know that Blizzard is not exempt from the same concerns plaguing the rest of the industry, of course. There definitely is a problem with like wage disparity here, but I think it's just super strong at Blizzard because of the issues they've had in the past and, all of this stuff that's obviously happened in, that we've covered in today's video. I think if there ever was a time for a wider push for things, it is now. We've witnessed Ubisoft lose major staff members, and it really does seem like it's all it takes is a few horror stories from Blizz to, make their way to Bloomberg to force the issue through. And I mean, certainly there's been rumors that there probably are a few stories like that people could really go and speak up about if they wanted to. So I'll be interested to see if maybe as a result of this, more stuff comes out, because certainly Blizzard are a bit rough. I mean, we've even heard some things of like the, sort of like an employee rewards program being like, hey, yeah, can we pay you better? No, but can you get a 25-year World of Warcraft subscription and a bunch of store mounts in-game? Which I don't think is going to be much compensation. I mean, hey, maybe your landlord is a World of Warcraft player who will accept a 25-year World of Warcraft subscription for a few months, but maybe not. Maybe not with those county rents. Anyway, that's the situation. It's bloody dire. What a surprise. We all knew that things were just a little bit rough there. And I imagine that with this news coming out, the likes of Riot and EA are just licking their lips thinking, there's a lot of disgruntled, high-skilled workers here. This could be good for our hiring, so I wonder if that'll happen. That is it for today's video. Of course, if you want to support the channel then, well, you've already listened to most of this video, so thank you. That like button helps, that sub button helps as well, and of course, we will be bringing you a lot of content over the coming days. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.